Hi there, beautiful people in the internet world. How are you doing today? Good. I'm glad you're doing good. Today we are talking about one of the most common questions that new mothers have after giving birth. They ask themselves, like, so when am I going to get my period back again? And what's it going to be like? How soon is it going to be till I'm fertile again, until I can have another baby? Ooh, what? I got that question all the time. And so today we're going to be exploring the relationship between menstruation and lactation. And we're going to be talking about the intricacies of a woman's body. I mean, it's almost magical. It's just phenomenal how just a few hormones can interact and interplay with all these organs to have different functions, and the interactions of the interplay of these few hormones determine your fertility, your pregnancy, your birth, your breastfeeding experience, your postpartum experience, and then back to your fertility. It's pretty amazing. And so on this video today, it's a live video, and I'm in front of the camera and Heaven's behind the camera. And just right now, before we get started, I'd like to hear from you. I'd like to hear, like, how long it was after giving birth that you got your period, and what was it like when you compare it to what your period was like before pregnancy and what it was like after pregnancy. And I'm doing something different this time. I have a little gift for you. And so I want to give it to you at the end, but I want to talk to you about this information first, okay? If this is our first time meeting, my name is Maria Chaudhry, and I'm a midwife and an herbalist and the creator of Birth Song Botanicals. And we make nourishing herbal remedies for pregnancy and for fertility and menstruation, but also, like I said, for pregnancy and postpartum recovery, for breastfeeding, and for children's wellness. You can find out more about us and our blog, because we have a whole resource for new moms and breastfeeding moms and menstruating women on our blog, which is birthsongbotanicals.com, and our YouTube channel and our podcast on SoundCloud. Okay? So, welcome. So remember, put your experiences in the chat. Okay. Also, one other little piece of information, just like with all my videos, these are educational videos, and they're in no way a replacement for professional midwifery care. If you have any questions that require a professional level of care, call your midwife. She is there for you. That's what midwives, our role in the community is to serve our community this way. So reach out to her. She's available. Okay, so let's get started. All right, okay, here's the question. Remember the question, when will I get my cycle back? What will it be like? And we have to remember, we are women. We are not cookie cutters. We are unique and individual, and how our bodies express themselves and go through this fertility cycle is unique unto each and every one of us. However, there are some generalizations that we can be talking about. And so today we have to bear in mind everything is going to have a generalization to it. So right off the bat, if a woman gives birth and for whatever reason she is not exclusively breastfeeding her newborn, then her period can come back as quickly as 6 weeks or 8 weeks postpartum. I have had the privilege of serving a lot of Hispanic women in my practice, and it's not, they don't get their period back because they're Hispanic. They get their period back so soon because they're working. They are working in the chicken factories and in the Tyson factories and the turkey factories, and they work night shift, and they're standing in the line cutting chicken wings, right? They have to work, and so they're doing the best thing they can do, and so they're trying to breastfeed, but they're also bottle feeding, and they get their periods back. I do their 6 week, visit. Sometimes for them, I need to put their visit a little bit later just so they can get back to work. Anyways, by 6 weeks, they've definitely had their period. Okay? Compared to women that are exclusively breastfeeding. And those women that are exclusively breastfeeding, once again, is the generalization, but they can go as long as 6 months to 12 months. And it is not at all uncommon for an exclusive breastfeeding mom to go over a year without having a period. I mean, I personally went 14 months before I got my period back. But I'm kind of a little bit on the edge of normal. I'm in normal frame, but like on the edge. I mean, just in general, I was 17 when I got my period. I was 30 when I had my baby. I was 43 weeks and 5 days before I gave birth. I was in labor for 3 days. And then I didn't get my period back till 14 months afterwards, and I breastfed my baby for 3 years. So all of that's normal, but it's just kind of a little wider circuit than most people have, right? So that's what I want to talk about, because you're going to compare that to your story, and you're going to put that in the comments and be like, what? That's my story is really different. Okay, so there's all these factors that influence when your fertility is going to come back, right? Essentially, these factors just include the amount of time that you're nursing, the frequency that you're nursing. There's specific things about nursing I'm going to get into, and really you need to get your hormones. You were dominated by pregnancy hormones, and then you were dominated by breastfeeding hormones, and now those need to taper off, and then you need to start to get your luteinizing hormone and your follicle stimulating hormone and your estrogen and progesterone in a new level, instead of being so dominated by prolactin and lactogen. So once those things come into play, then you can start to ovulate again and start to have an endometrial lining, and then you can start to have your menstrual flow. But that is a transition that can take several months before that happens. Okay? So I just really want to, again, if you know me, you know I'm going to talk about these moments in time. They're perfect moments to nurture the relationship with your body, to get really familiar and recognize what are the signs of fertility. What do my breasts feel like? What does my cervical fluid look like? Why are my emotions so different right now? Those are all signs and signals for you to tap into, and they're filled with information and awareness. And so even though life is busy and hectic and you're nursing and you're taking care of a baby and running a household, it's time to turn inward and connect with your body in this way. Okay? So what to expect from your first period? Whether you had to go back to work right away, whether your period came back at 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 14 months, what is it going to be like when you have your first period? Again, we're going to generalize here. But essentially, some women feel like they're about to start their period, like maybe the heaviness or the crampiness or the backache or the emotions or the breast pain. They have all this like buildup. You know what it's like right before you start your period. You know that like buildup, right? So you have all the buildup, and then it doesn't come, and then it kind of fades away. And then next month you have the buildup, and it doesn't come. And then you're like, okay, so like, whoa, what's going on? Is there something wrong? Because you're having the buildup and you're having all these emotions. Is there something wrong? The answer is no. It just takes a while to synchronize. It's just how it goes. The next girl, or the same girl, might start to have this next thing where she does have her cycle. Her cycle starts and she spots, and then it goes away and there's no more bleeding, and then more spots and more bleeding, and then it goes away. And so then there she is again, confused, without clarity of like, what? Why am I just bleeding but I'm not really having a period? Is it like a period? It's not like a period. And then there's other women that have, like before their birth, they had no cramps. and then now they gave birth and they're like doubled over with cramps. Or it's vice versa. The girl that was like needing to call in for work every month because her cramps hurt her so bad, now she barely cramps at all, right? So that's a change that women experience and comment on. And then another thing that happens is their quantity and quality of their bleeding changes. So the woman most often will have more clots than they had before, and most often their period will be heavier than it was before. Okay? So let's just talk about some herbal support for you if you're having some of these situations. If you are going through the, ooh, it's about to be here, I think I'm about to start my period, and nothing happens, right? In one way, the big picture is just have patience. But it's always a good time, it's always the right time to have nourishing herbal infusions. Red raspberry leaf is going to nurture and tonify your uterus and build your blood and give you something that makes you like, is everything okay? Well, I don't know what to do. Well, I'm going to drink red raspberry leaf tea. Well, there you go. You're doing the right thing, right? And also, if you're just getting those emotions like holy mother of pearl, then maybe some solid and serene would be helpful for you, just to help you with your overwhelm and your stress and anxiety. Okay, now the starting and stopping, again, the same thing I would say is your nourishing herbal infusions, maybe some women's balance, your red raspberry leaf and your nettle. Those will be the best thing to help your period start and stop. I wouldn't try anything really hormonally too much, except for women's balance has ashwagandha in it. And ashwagandha is a wonderful herb to help harmonize and stabilize your hormones. That's what they're naturally trying to do. So ashwagandha supports your body in this process. That's why the herb tea is called women's balance. It's trying to get you into this synchronized place. Okay? Now, if you're not having any more cramps and you used to have cramps, can I get a whoop whoop, hands up, like there's nothing to do about that, but just be grateful, right? If you are suddenly having a bunch of cramps, then Cycle Relief is going to be your best friend, because Cycle Relief has red raspberry leaf in it. So you're going to have your tea. Ideally, you'll be doing both, be drinking your nourishing herbal infusion. And Cycle Relief has cramp bark and chamomile. And cramp bark helps relax your uterus so it doesn't hurt so bad, while you can still have effective tone. You need to have that effective tone. You need to have the cramp. It just doesn't need to hurt you. And chamomile is really rich in calcium, and I'll get back into that a little bit more, but calcium really feeds your body, and you're giving so much right now. Okay? And if your flow is heavier than it was before, again, you're going to be like, well, Maria, you have like 2 answers for 50 questions. I'm going to say drink more red raspberry leaf tea, again, because it has astringent qualities. So not only is it good at tonifying your uterus and giving you nourishment, it also helps it so you don't bleed so much. And if you're bleeding a lot, once again, Cycle Relief, because Cycle Relief is going to help keep that uterus nice and tight while maintaining the tone so that it's not hurting, but it's being effective. You're having effective contractions, effective cramps. All right, so those are some ways to help you with your first cycle. And your first several cycles might really be this way. It's not like you just have one and boom, all of a sudden it's all harmonized. It's called a transition. You're going from your non-fertile phase into your fertile phase. Okay? And so now the rest of this video is really dedicated more for breastfeeding moms. Okay? Because here we are. Now you've had your period, and so you're no longer just a new mom, and you're no longer a new breastfeeding mom. You're now a new mom breastfeeding, and that's having a menstruation. And so you are giving in so many different ways. We just talked about how you feel right before your period. You have all these emotions, right? So in this moment, when you become this menstruating breastfeeding mom, you more than likely are crying. You're having tears. right? You're also sweating because your hormones are changing, so you're all profusely sweating. You're breastfeeding all the time, so your milk is coming out, and you're bleeding, right? So you got water leaving you in every way, right? Hence, like, we need to fill you back up. We need to help you not be so depleted. To be depleted now is easily done. And when you're depleted, you're ragged, right? And you're depressed, and you're angry, and you're frazzled, and it just doesn't work out well. And the other thing is you're probably sleep deprived too, because you're wrestling with a baby. And you might be working. Okay, all the things, right? So what I want to remind you is back to the basics. You know this, but my job is to remind you that you know it, and to remind you that you can do it, and that these are the most simple things. Just because it's simple does not mean it's easy. I'm not saying it's easy, but we're going to start with our nourishment, of course. There's a whole blog on our website called Breastfeeding Nutrition. Okay, so you want to go there because you need your calcium and your magnesium and your iron. Okay, I want to talk about iron real quick. We already talked about nourishing herbal infusions. So iron, another way you can bring up your iron is with chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is a wonderful remedy that helps oxygenate your blood and helps your body carry more hemoglobin throughout the body and helps create more red blood cells. When you have more red blood cells and more oxygen and higher iron levels, you are in a much better mood and you have enough energy to do your responsibilities. Okay. The next thing is I just described, you're crying, sweating, bleeding, nursing. So water, the most foundational thing, pure, clean water. Take your body weight and divide it by 2. A 150-pound woman should be drinking at least 75 ounces of water. Okay? Have your gallon jug. Might as well have your gallon jug and it's summertime right now. It's almost summertime, so put it in the refrigerator, put your name on it, fill it up at night, put it in the refrigerator. By the next night, your jug should be empty. Okay? But the jug is empty, but you are full. See? That's good. Okay. The other thing is your need for self-care is like not a luxury. It's a foundational, it's profound, your need. Because you're the heart of the family, right? Everybody looks to you, everybody needs you, everybody comes to you, right? You're the glue that holds it all together. So these are not luxurious things we're talking about. They're foundational key things. And so the next thing is, obviously you need to get ample sleep and rest and self-time. And there's so much that you're processing through your identity changing from who you were when you were before you were pregnant, and then you were pregnant, and then how your birth went, and then now how your life is different now that you're a mom, and then now you're menstruating, so all these new things are coming up, and then you can't help it but you're comparing yourself to everybody else, and you got all the stuff, right? So the time for journaling is really paramount. And the time also, stop comparing yourself to other people. Just don't do that. Is the loss of joy. It's absolutely, and I know for sure I did that. I still do that sometimes. And so it's a time to go inward. And one way to do that is through guided meditations. And I recorded a pretty short but really sweet guided meditation for you. It's called your pelvic bowl cleansing and body blessing. And it's great right now as you're starting your cycle back again to just kind of like nurture and clean. It's not that it's dirty, but it's like a blessing to uplift your body and your breast and your belly. And it's short, so it shouldn't take you too long. And then, taking walks with your friends or taking walks alone and doing yoga. A lot of women really love baby and me, mommy yoga. That was the worst thing for me. That took me from like already not having a good day to having a bad day trying to do yoga and having my baby crawl all over me. I was like, so if that works for you, cool. If not, just let somebody else watch the baby, or while the baby's asleep, do your yoga. And then I'm really a lover of Qigong, and so Qigong is another way to have a really simple practice that doesn't take a long time. You don't even need a mat, you don't need to change your clothes, you don't need to be inside or outside or have any special equipment or location. You learn how to anchor yourself, how to root down, how to turn inward and just fill your body up with a lot of energy, and how to release all that stagnant stuff, and how to like cultivate your energy so that you can increase your capacity for giving. You're the heart of the family, right? So your capacity to give is already so much, but this helps you give in a way that you're not depleted. And I teach Qigong every Friday on Zoom, and there's a link down below if you'd like to join that, and it's free, it's for donation. So Qigong is a lifelong practice that can help you right now. And then what else? Okay, herb baths. So herb baths are great because you get to go into the water and they feel really warm and sweet. But also we're talking about practicality here. That's what herbs are great. They're great for your emotions and your spirit, but they're also great for your practical physical body. And so soothing herb bath is blended with magnesium sulfate, meaning Epsom salts, and your skin is the largest organ, so it can help absorb all this extra magnesium that you need. And once you have enough magnesium in your body, you don't cramp so much, you don't hurt so much, you're not so overwhelmed, you can sleep better, you have better bowel movements. And then the other herbs in there are sweet for self-love and for purification and for pain. So soothing herb bath is not just like a Calgon take me away, it's actually medicine that you're soaking in. And also, I'm about to get into some of the other effects of breastfeeding, interplays of breastfeeding and lactation, because breastfeeding and lactation, what I'm trying to say is menstruation and lactation. So like you have your menstruation and it does influence your breastfeeding experience, but not that much. It does, but not that much. Not when you compare it to when you're breastfeeding, how much it influences your menstruation. Breastfeeding influences your menstruation exponentially more than your menstruation influences your breastfeeding. But one of the things that does happen when your period starts, again, these are really normal experiences, but they kind of come almost from out of nowhere, and you might be confused about them, so I want to tell you what they are. So when your period is about to start, or you're going through, it's about to start and it doesn't, or it starts and stops, or it starts, one of those ways, you might notice like your breasts become really sore, and you might notice that there's a dip in your milk supply. Okay, this dip in your milk supply is temporary, right? It's not gonna stay low. But what also happens is your baby notices there's a change in the supply, and your baby also notices that there's like a subtle different change in the flavor. The baby is also a vibe reader, and you're all stressed out having your hormones just going through you, right? And so you and your baby are vibe reading off each other. And then the baby starts to nurse and it's hurting you, and the baby's trying to nurse, but then it tastes different and it's not enough, or it's not as much there. So then they become real restless and fidgety and fussy, and they're like disinterested and they don't want to nurse, and they're just like all of a sudden hard to deal with. So you're dealing with your own hard to deal with self, and then the baby's being hard to deal with, and that, just give yourself a little patience. Please try not to worry too much about it, but that'll last a few days, and then it should settle back out, right? However, if you really have a true concern about your breast milk supply, then Let There Be Milk is what you're going to want. And I want to tell you a little bit about Let There Be Milk. So we have several varieties of Let There Be Milk. They're essentially all the same, but they kind of fit a little different need for each woman. So the first two I have, they're exactly the same. It's just the size. You have a 1 ounce and a 2 ounce. And these Let There Be Milk is blended with galactagogues. That means they just help you produce breast milk. The first two are alcohol based. So that means if you were to just open this up and put this under your tongue, you would be like, whoo, it would take your breath away. It's going to burn under your tongue and it's going to taste very strong because these are potent herbs, right? You have a real need. You need to feed your baby. That's like an urgent need. So we're not like fumbling around giving you something that might work. We're giving you something that will work, so it has to be strong, right? It's going to taste strong. It's going to be strong. So don't just put it under your tongue. You need to have a sip of water. Hold the water under your tongue and then put the tincture under there. Or put it in a little bit of water and drink the whole thing all at once like a shot. Because if you do it the other way, you're going to be mad at me. And I can handle it, but really let's just save ourselves the trouble, okay? The next thing is there are a couple different variations. So the next variation are the capsules. And the capsules are, we made those because modern America and around the world, people know how to take pills. And I want breastfeeding to be so commonplace, so normal, that it's just like, of course I'm going to breastfeed. Oh, okay, there's a pill for that? Oh, okay. And so then people can, and it's easy, they can take it with them, and they don't understand that much yet about tinctures, and so the capsules. It has all the same herbs. It's just that now this one has to go into your mouth and go into your stomach before it's released and absorbed. So it's gonna work. It's gonna take longer to work. This alcohol that goes directly under your tongue is going to enter into your bloodstream very quickly, so it's going to work much faster. And then the last one is an alcohol-free version, and we make that one because I get a lot of feedback of people being like, whoa, lactate milk, man, the taste is so strong, right? And there are some people that alcohol is not the right choice for them, either for religious reasons or for they might have been alcoholics and they don't want to have the alcohol. If it's not your concern about religious reasons or not because you're an alcoholic, I want to just dispel really quickly right here. I wasn't planning on talking about this, but I will. The alcohol, the amount of alcohol in a tincture is compared to the alcohol in a banana. It is not going to get you drunk. You can drink this whole thing, which I don't suggest you do because you'll have bowel movements and it'll feel terrible, but the amount of alcohol in this whole thing all at once, you might feel a little tiny bit, but you're taking drops under your tongue and it will not affect your baby. It will not negatively affect you. I feel 1,000% solid in that, okay? Okay, but the alcohol-free version, I want to tell you, it tastes a little bit sweeter, the same herbs. The difference, though, is because it's sweeter, and it is still going to go under your tongue and it's going to go into your system quickly. However, it's going to work a little bit slower than our original alcohol one. So the first alcohol one, the fastest. The alcohol-free, sweeter, a little bit slower. The capsules, effective, and it's going to work a little, it's going to have a delayed, but then it's going to work really well. Okay? Just wanted to give you that. So your breast milk supply is never exactly the same. You probably already picked up on that. The days that you're stressed, or the days that you work, or the days your baby has a growth spurt, or the days that you didn't sleep well through the night, or the days that you got sick, or who knows what happened that day, but your breast milk supply will go up and down, particularly when your cycle starts back. So expect that ebb and flow. The other challenge that women have is that your breast gets so sore. And why do your breasts get so sore? It's the same thing as, some of you probably have been a tandem nurser. That means you were breastfeeding and then you got pregnant and you continued to breastfeed, right? So you breastfed while you were pregnant. And in the early part of your pregnancy, before you got pregnant, breastfeeding was smooth and easy. Didn't hurt at all. And then you got pregnant and all of a sudden you're like, whoo, oh my gosh, this is like, I don't know, man, this is really hurting. That's because your hormones just shifted. So that's the same thing that's happening to you right now when you go from non-fertile state to a fertile state. or from a non-fertile state to having your period, when you start to have your period, the progesterone is just skyrocketing and now your nipples are really sore. What to do about that? Either get you a new bra, the one that like really holds you up, or take your bra off and don't put anything on, like just be topless, whatever one you like better. And slather your nipples up with some nipple salve. Nipple salve is going to be safe for your baby. Like if it's really slathered on there and it's goopy, then yeah, you want to let it absorb in or wipe off the excess. But once it's absorbed in, you're not going to need to wipe it off. It's safe for them to nurse on, and it's a versatile salve that's going to be good for all areas of your mouth. I don't suggest eating it because it's not going to taste good, but every bit of it is edible, right? And made out of food grade value herbs. Okay, so those are your primary herbs in your menstruation, and I just want you to talk. I want to talk to you a little bit about, like, I want to remind you that I have a gift for you. Remember, so you got to wait for that one. But I also just want to talk to you about, remember I said that menstruation affects lactation a little bit, but lactation really affects menstruation. So let's talk about that. So essentially what the frequency of nursing, so how often you nurse your baby in a 24-hour period sends a significant signal to your body. Also, those women that breastfeed throughout the night, they have night nursing sessions. Those long, they co-sleep and they breastfeed through the night. Those are the women that have the most, I don't want to say success, but the most opportunity for their body to suppress lactation. So if you're nursing a lot in the day, but you don't nurse a lot at night, you can still probably get your period back. But if you're like away from your baby in the day, but then you're with your baby all night long and you nurse all night long, even though you can't sleep, but you're nursing all night long, that's going to suppress your fertility more effectively. So if you are wanting to, if you want another baby, and you want to increase your fertility, and you want to like try for another baby, and after it's already been 6 months and you're wanting another baby, then you can try to slowly, gradually, one nursing session at a time, stop nursing so much in the middle of the night, and then that might bring your period back quicker. However, those of you that co-sleep with your baby and nurse with your baby all night I can already feel you be like, but your baby, it's going to be so challenging for you and for your baby to do that because they're so used to having access to you at all times and to nurse at all times, and everybody kind of sleeps better when the boob's in their mouth. Like, that's just kind of how it goes. So if you're going to take your boob out of their mouth so that you can have your fertility back, you're going to absolutely need your partner, right? Your partner's going to need to put the baby in the sling and like take laps at night around the living room or sit in the rocking chair or something, or do something, because it's not going to be you that's going to be effectively quieting the baby down, because the baby's going to look to you for nursing, and you know that. The other thing I want to say is Leche League is this resource. It's a phenomenal resource for all things breastfeeding, right? And there's all these beautiful Leche League leaders all over the world, and they support these wonderful groups called the Big Latch On, and there's the Womanly Art of Breastfeeding, and it is like a gem in the world of breastfeeding moms. And they have, this woman wrote the tenets of breastfeeding, and of course I can't find them now. Here it is. And so her name is Sheila Kipley, and she wrote this book called Breastfeeding and the Natural Child Spacing, and there's these 7 tenets of ecological breastfeeding. I want to share them with you, because these 7 tenets are what is going to help suppress your menstruation as long as possible. Okay, so number 1, exclusively breastfeed your baby. And that means no other solid, no other liquid, or nothing else goes into your baby's mouth for the first 6 months. And then the next one is to comfort your baby at the breast. The baby cries, comfort your baby at the breast. Don't use any bottles. Don't use any pacifiers. Sleep with your baby throughout the night. Lay down with your baby in the day when the baby takes a nap. And avoid any schedule, like don't try to have a schedule. Don't try to put your baby on a schedule. And then also avoid any activity that separates you from your baby or that restricts your nursing. I want to say those ecological tenets are beautiful if you're going to want to have a long and successful and enduring breastfeeding relationship, and you're wanting to suppress your menstruation as long as possible. There are a few things I want to say about that, is like a couple things. If you do all those things and your period comes back, you're not breastfeeding wrong. You didn't do it wrong, right? This is your body's ready to come back, right? Your period's ready to come back. The other thing is these are a little idealistic. There's a thing called real life, right? And how you actually really are feeding your baby and feeding and meeting the needs for yourself and meeting the needs for your family and all your other responsibilities is you're doing the right thing, right? And so there's no potential blame. And you know, if you have to give your baby a bottle and put a pacifier in your baby's mouth and go back to work, what's going to happen? You're going to get your period before the other girl that didn't do that. Is that huge of a deal? I don't know, but you can answer that. But I'll say I had all these ideals. So here I was a midwife apprentice. I've been to like 60, almost 70 births. I'm like, I'm going to do it, right? I am going to, obviously, I am so prepared for my my birth, and then obviously I'm just going to breastfeed. I'm not going to really have a problem with that because I'm Maria. I don't know. It's going to be easy. I'm going to do it. And I will say that I had a crying baby that cried and cried and cried. And I remember going in the night, one night, like deep in the night, to Walgreens with my crying baby in the car the whole time, and putting my baby in the sling and like frazzled and like going to the aisle looking for a pacifier because of course I didn't have one because I was never going to use one, trying to find, so I bought all these pacifiers, and then like I'm trying to like put the pacifier in Sequoia's mouth, right, and he's like resisting, and so then I finally nurse him, and finally we go to sleep, and then the next time he's crying again, and we're in the car. He really liked to cry in the car. I was like trying to give him the pacifier and trying to give him the pacifier, and he just downright refused the pacifier. I was begging, like, come on, can you just like suck on this thing for a minute? My nipples hurt, and I'm overwhelmed, and I'm touched out, and you just won't stop crying. So his crying is what made me, I didn't pull it out, but it's what made me make stomach soother because of his belly. And then the next thing was I tried to pump, right? So I'm going to be a midwife. I'm going to go back to births. I'm going to be away from my baby. So I'm going to pump. And so when I pumped, it would be like drip. I know, wait. Drip. So I could not pump, right? I could not pump. So I was like, oh, I'm an herbalist. I can handle this. And I started to make all this, my prototypes of Let There Be Milk. They were horrible. Like just the taste is so, these are strong herbs. So like, and marshmallow root is a beautiful herb, but it's really thick and mucilageny, like mucus. The point of it is that's why it gives you such good, thick breast milk. But that's really hard to drink, right? With some like goat's root that's bitter. With bitter is really good, stimulates your liver and your metabolism and your digestion. That's why you make a lot of good breast milk. It's why it's so effective, but really hard to make. And so I had to come up with, I was trying to make a tea, and then I was trying to grind it and put it into capsules, and then eventually I kind of made it into a tincture, and then by then I was just like so frustrated by my pumping that I had to stop. I just didn't pump. And so what I'm trying to say is, although these are idealistic, And in the beginning, I had this as my ideal, my gold standard. It didn't take long before I was trying to figure out a way. If Sequoia could just sleep like on Pritam instead of on me, that would be great. But that never happened. So I did all of these 7 tenets for 3 years. Not because I always wanted to, but that's just how it worked out. And I love breastfeeding, but it was also one of the most wonderful, wonderful experiences of my life. And it's also one of the ones where you wish you could just like unzip out of your body and just leave your body over there to nurse so you could go do something else, right? And so I'm going to come back in. But so these 7 tenets, you make them fit in your real life, right? Make them work for you because you're a good mom. And you're taking good care of your baby and taking care of yourself. All right. So the other way that breastfeeding influences your menstruation, we talked about the frequency. So the more you nurse, the more skin to skin you have, the more exclusive you are with your baby and with your breastfeeding, and especially in the night, the longer you're likely to suppress your menstruation. The other thing is when your baby starts to eat, right? So that you're introducing solid foods. Again, there's a generalization of when is the right time. Like, so once they're like 6 months and, you know, and you're observing them and you're eating and they're like trying to reach for the food, or they're like licking and they want to bite, right? And they're so interested, then they might be ready. But if they're having a hard time holding their head up and they're holding it, they always sticking their tongue out every time you put the spoon in their mouth, they keep thrusting it forward because they still have their tongue thrusting reflex, they might not be ready, right? So you're going to have to gauge. And there's so many clients I would have that they would start feeding at 6 months, and then it wasn't long, they were like eating regular food, you know, eating food fairly quickly. And then there's others that they didn't start eating really till about a year, till they were about a year old. Regardless of the age, the point I'm trying to make is when they start to get a significant quantity of calories from their food, they're naturally going to nurse less. And when they naturally nurse less, then you're going to make less milk. And when you make less milk and you have less skin-to-skin time, it's a signal to your body that you're ready to be fertile, that you're ready to be pregnant. Just like if you're actually sleeping through the night, biologically, genetically, ecologically, you're ready to have another baby. And so you'll have your period back. So unless you welcome another pregnancy, then I encourage you to really get really familiar with the signs of fertility. And I made a whole video the other day called the Fertility Awareness Method. And I encourage you to watch the video, but I encourage you to go to the blog, because the blog has the video, but it also has a bunch of photographs and images of what cervical fluid looks like, so you can see that. Even if you don't go through the whole detailed protocol of the fertility awareness method, I encourage you to know what fertile cervical fluid looks like, right? Also, this is what I tell my clients. I used to tell them this all the time. So you know, here you are, and you're touched out, you're maxed out, you do not want to like have sex, you do not want another person to need something from you, touch you, or want you in any way possible, right? That's a very real postpartum experience. But then that day that you've been feeling that way, and then all of a sudden, there's your partner. And he looks so hot. You're like, whoa, how did you look hot? I've not noticed you were hot for a long time. And you kind of have this like, ooh, I like you. I want you right now. Then just assume that you're fertile. Just assume that you're fertile and know yourself and know you want another baby or you don't. And then do the right thing for you. And if it's don't, then use the birth control that matches with breastfeeding. Okay? All right, what else? So, put in the chat when you had your period, what it was like, and what it was like, what your breastfeeding was like, what your milk supply was like, and tell me all about that. I just want you to remember, you know, that I come from the perspective, and I want you to is just trusting that your body is wise, and that knowing, just like every other experience in your life, this is a process that's unique to you, and yet there's a parameter of normal, and you fit somewhere within that, and that you have support. You have the Leche League, right? You have Birth Song Botanicals, you have tons of blogs and videos, and you have support from your friends, you have support from herbs. Every herb that we talked about today, there's a link in the description below for you to get. And just that you are giving so much that for you to take care of yourself is not a luxury, it's a priority. And you know, there was one other thing I think you need to have when your period starts and you're a breastfeeding mom that I didn't mention. It's chocolate. You need a lot of chocolate. And if your partner is a man, you got to hide that stuff, right? So put it behind, like up in the cupboard behind some like gluten-free, boring crackers, right? He won't go there. Like put his little chips over there and then put the gluten-free crackers over and hide your chocolate behind it. Now, if your partner is a woman, she'll be like, I know you got some chocolate in here somewhere. She'll be looking, right? But you need chocolate. So I didn't forget about your gift. Here's your gift. Are you ready? Here's your gift. So your gift is because I want you to take such great care of yourself, and I want to honor you for your self-care practices, that your gift is a code, a coupon code. You get to save 10% on all these. So everything, you have to go to our website to get it. So we do offer all our stuff on Amazon and on Etsy and all over the internet and in some of your local stores around you. But to get this gift that's unique to this video, the code is let me make sure I'm telling you right. It's all caps, and it's called period return ? So PERIOD return, RETURN ? And you put that in on our website, and it'll be good for women's balance, solid and serene, chlorophyll, cycle relief, all the Let There Be Milks, the nipple salve, and the soothing herb bath, right? Because I want you to just like fill up with goodness, and because you are giving on every level. And I'm proud of you for nursing that baby, and I'm proud of you for just showing up and being such a wonderful, beautiful person. Your presence is valuable. You are doing all the right things. Okay? So use the code, and push like and subscribe on this video, and share this video with your girlfriends and your friends that need it, so they can know what to expect, so they're not so super stressed out about when their milk supply drops and why their baby's crying, and you know, they know what to expect. All right, my friends. So until next time, I want you to drink deep and always walk in beauty.